This is more exciting than I thought it was going to be.
What are we at? All right.
Getting there. So what are you going to? What degree?
I'm going to go to about 170. So if you go to 180, you might be slightly beyond it. Let's see where we're at here. And you might have trouble getting it out of the die. If you go past that, then you're going to have to cut it out. So we don't want to do that. All right, so.
Good?
We have a couple inches of spring back, so what we're going to do is wash it. All right, a little bit more.
So you want the spring back to end at 170?
Yeah, so we're at the end here, and we're at 174. If I let go of this, how far did it go back?
Right about 170, just, oh.
Actually, yeah, we're right there.
170.
Okay, that's where we're going to stop.
All right, well, everybody, thanks for joining us for another live video on Facebook, YouTube, and at Eastwood.com. I'm Randy here in the Eastwood Garage. We've got Andy with us for the second time this week. Earlier it was the MP250i welder you were demonstrating.
Yep.
Today it's our high-capacity tubing bender. So what are we building here today?
So I have a pickup truck that I take camping, go on weekend expeditions basically, and I've got a cap on the back. So I can put all my camping gear in the back. The problem is I do a lot of home improvements. I need a rack. So I'm going to put coping up on top of the truck, tubing for the race car projects that we do.
Yeah.
I don't have anywhere to put that material. Now that I've got a cap on the back, I've got stuff going through the back window. It's not safe, honestly. So I need a rack. I looked at them online, sourced them all over the place, found some good deals, $800–900. They're a lot cheaper when you don't have that cap in the back because they have to actually go around the cap.
Okay.
And there was some pretty big spacing between the cap and those pipes, the tubes, I should say. It wasn't the look I wanted. The capacity wasn't what I wanted, and honestly, the shipping ended up being hundreds of dollars.
Oh, really?
Because obviously the size of a ladder rack for a truck is absolutely massive. Been truck freight, that sort of thing. So you know what? We can buy this tubing bender, buy the die needed, stand, everything, and all the tube for less than the price of it.
So you're buying everything for less than you would have bought.
And
now when you're done, you got the tubing bender.
Yeah.
So now you can make a roll bar, a roll cage, headers.
Headers, all those different things. So the way I like to see it is, I already have a MIG welder home for obvious reason.
Yeah.
I basically get a free tool out of this. And I now own the project. I made it exactly the way I want it.
Yeah.
So what I'm doing here is, if you look at a lot of different ladder racks, they have hoops on the very back. So when you go to climb up on the truck, you get to grab it. Or you use it as something to tie down. So this is the last bend I need to do. One more for the other side. Last bends we need to do for the actual ladder rack itself. So we're just going to show off what this thing can do, how easy it is to set up.
Yeah, because they are intimidating when you look at it. But once you see how everything goes, it's fairly simple.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
there's a lot to what you're seeing right here, but everything is quick exchange. If everything's lubricated, it's very easy to pull at the lever, and it's a fairly simple idea. And we don't want people to be scared from making tube projects. It's actually pretty easy, and after you get a couple pieces bent up and you do a couple notches, you're pretty confident, and you don't have to worry about paying a professional to do something for thousands of dollars when you can do it yourself.
Cool. Well, if anybody has any questions, we got the computer set up right here with us today. So I'm gonna go back here. I'm gonna let you explain, how you're making the bends and explain how this tool works. And if anybody has any questions, post them, and I'm gonna throw them right here to you.
Sounds good. So what I just did was I've actually finished off about 170-degree bend. We can do up to 180. For the way this thing's going to be mounted, I only want 170 degrees. And also, if you do go to 180, go slightly past, it is a little bit difficult to get them out of the dies. So to show you how we're going to unload this real quick, basically what I did earlier, after you're done your bend, you just push on the end, come back around the other side. You're going to take your strap off after loosening up this guide bolt, and we're basically, just very simply, just going to pull our piece through, and that's as easy as it is to unload. What we're going to do real quick is we're going to cut this piece off, and then we're going to load this back up and get started doing an identical bend. So I'm going to throw this over here into our bandsaw. we need really a rough cut of where this is going to end up being. We're going to end up notching it anyways. So we're just going to quick load this in, do a cut.
Now, how thick is this tube? Like, what size tubing?
This is 1 inch.
What size tubing are we using here today?
So this is DOM. So the outside is 1 inch. It's drawn over mandrel. So you actually have an outside diameter and an inside diameter. And not like Schedule 80 pipe or Schedule 40 pipe, where depending on the schedule, it can kind of be almost all over the place. With DOM, you have an outside, an inside, and a wall thickness. So this is 120 wall thickness, 1 inch outside diameter, and 3/4 inside diameter. This honestly isn't what I need for the job. It's what I had sitting around in my shop. So we don't have to worry about using expensive materials.
Yeah.
So if you have the inside seam welded tube, it's a lot cheaper. Honestly, for this, it's not a huge structural item, so you could technically use gauge pipe, but I would suggest a tubing as opposed to pipe, because pipe's supposed to hold stuff inside. Tubing is designed to hold weight.
Okay.
So this is a 1 inch DOM. Finish this guy off. This aside. This piece up really quickly to show everybody how this is done. So just as a quick overview, you have basically your master die, which is what you're going to be forming. Keep it your backside the straight, kicked out the back. So we're going to load this in from the backside. Bring your piece all the way to the end here. Put in, this is basically a shoe that holds everything together. Put your little pin down. And as you can see right here is a bolt that holds this thing in place. So in many cases, if you're repeating a bend and you have to worry about only using so much material, what I like to do is I take that original one, I load it in, and I take a Sharpie marker and actually get in all the way against the die, make that mark. Mm-hmm. That's where it started basically. And I'll get in and I'll make a little Sharpie mark where this bolt actually contacts.
Okay.
That way I know where the tubing starts to bend, and that I can load it in and have the same exact thing happen multiple times. Mm-hmm. So if I need to make 5 of these, I can do it. Not the biggest precision. Name of the game is don't waste as much material, because it's not, some of the stuff isn't cheap. Yeah. This is a fairly cheap piece, but in the long run, if you're using 1 3/4, 120 wall for a race car cage, yeah, you might be using a couple hundred feet, and eventually, if you don't do these right, you're going to probably waste 100 hours of the material. You don't want to do that. Yeah. So what I'd like to do is I do like what I just said, make those little basically marks, and also I like to make. So if I'm going to use 1 3/4 like that for the roll cage, mm-hmm. I do 30-degree bends, 45-degree bends a lot. I do 90-degree bends a lot. So what I'll do in the very beginning of the project, I'll do all those bends, make all those marks, actually hang them on my wall. And I'll come back later on, and if I go up to the car and say I'm doing the top of the cage, I think a 90 is about right. I go in there and I actually put that piece there.
Okay.
And then measure.
Yeah.
So now I know, okay, 90 is good, or actually I need 5 extra degrees.
So you sort of have a template.
Yeah, I've got 5 or 6 templates of different sizes, and I can use them all over the place.
So it's a good reference point for what you need to. Okay.
Yep. So we're all loaded up here. Something to remember, especially with the larger tube diameters, you're going to want to lubricate a little bit, just a quick mist of the dies and the actual material itself, because you're dragging this over dies. You don't want to have to sit there and have steel on steel. You actually want a lubricant.
Okay.
That way it's much easier to release. It's easier on your hands themselves. So if you're using, like, say, 2-inch DOM.
Because that is sliding around
Correct.
the tubing.
So if you're using a larger diameter tubing, it's going to put more force against you. We're using 1-inch today, so it's pretty easy.
And you can get different dies.
Correct. You can go anywhere from 3/4-inch dies all to 2-inch dies. Okay. We do have some of the smaller 120 degree, so guys are saving money. They know they're never going to do anything over a 90-degree bend. Mm-hmm. They can buy the smaller die. Actual, what its capacity is. This die is 240 degrees. Technically, you're not going to ever go over 204 or 90 or 180 because you can't get it off the die. But they're designed that way so you have spring back.
Oh, okay.
Which we'll talk about here in a second.
Which we saw right at the beginning, but we'll see it here in a minute.
Yeah,
right?
We'll talk about it here in a minute. So now we're all set up, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically put a little bit of pressure on this. And you've got an indicator die right here. And what I'm going to do is I've got a slight amount of pressure. I'm not bending this at all. I'm just basically putting it to the point where it's at 0. So I know I'm right against there. And I'm going to start bending. I've got 170 degrees. So I'm going to start ratcheting through. As you can see, what Randy just said about was that spring back. With this tubing, we're going to get a little bit different spring back depending on how far we go through it. But with normal 1 3/4, 120 wall, I always know that it's roughly 4 degrees, but I test it every time I do it because from different houses that actually make the material.
Okay.
So if you get something from a local steel yard made in Pennsylvania, it might only have 3 degrees. So test them every time you get a new bit of a material.
It's a good tip. And then each time you're just moving up one rung.
So legitimately, it is a manual ratchet. I'm just doing this by hand. If this was that 2-inch DOM, I'd be pulling on it pretty hard.
Yeah.
But that's just the nature of the larger material. It's got a lot more strength. So we're just doing 1 inch here, pretty easy. And as you can see, we're to the end here. Now what do? You actually pull center pin. You go right back into another location. We start again.
So you're just at a different. So you started off in this end hole in this die.
Yeah.
And now you went to the next.
So this hole has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,
Can you see these,
6
Joe,
locations.
Yeah. Coming out this side.
So every time you get to the end of your actual ratcheting mechanism, you just go back.
That's pretty simple.
Yeah.
So when you get to the end, you pull it out. Wow.
Yeah.
I got one of these in the garage. I'd probably use it if I would have. We should have done this video a year ago.
So now we're on the 3rd hole. We're getting a lot closer. Speed this up a little quick. You can also get a workout.
So now we get one more pull.
Yep. So we're going to talk about spring back here after this
Joe,
last.
you're going to see this so we can. So now this one just comes out and just moves.
Yep.
Everything rotates and goes into.
So just show you.
So it was in that hole,
Yep.
and now it'll be in.
Now we're going to put it in this one. Huh. So now that we're pretty close to the end of what I'm trying to do here.
So now you didn't go all the way back to the end here this time, though.
Correct.
Because you're getting closer to the 170.
Yeah.
Okay.
So right now what I have right here is, like we did before, we put a little bit of tension on it to know where our indicator on the dial was. Mm-hmm. I'm doing that right now. So I see it at
145?
Yeah, roughly 145. What I'm going to do, I'm going to pull on this until it basically gives me a little bit of a fight. So we're at what, 147?
Yeah, 147 probably.
So we know, and I let go of it, went back 2 degrees. We have 2 degrees of spring back. So if I'm going to do a 170 degree bend, which I'm about to finalize, technically I'm going to go to 172 and it's going to come back to 170. That way we replicate that exact bend that we did the previous one.
I'm going to go check for questions here quick, see if anybody's hitting us up.
All right, so we got 10 more. All right. And when I get to the end, I know that I've got 2 degrees spring back, but I'm still gonna be a little wary that, so I went to 171. Let me put some tension against it. We're pretty close. We're gonna give it a little bit more. 72. All right, we're at, so, yep, we're pretty much there. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to basically push this back piece, loosen up my set, pull my strap, pull this piece out, and if we grab the original,
Uh-oh.
let's see how good I am.
It's live. We'll know if this is real or not.
It's right there.
Look
We
at that.
have exactly 170 for both.
So now you got your truck hoops?
Yep. This is literally just going to go in the back of my pickup truck. And I'm basically going to get a ladder rack out of some material that I had laying around.
Yeah.
You know, purchase these guys. Spend all of, what, 5 minutes max on each one of these bends. If I wasn't talking, it might be a minute or two. And you know, you're set. You basically can, if you're working on a roll cage, buy one of these, buy the die. You basically get a free tool out of it. You can build your own roll cage to the specifications that are needed.
Man, you build headers or a roll cage or a roll bar or like that, you can use it for other stuff.
Yeah,
I never
absolutely.
even thought about building stuff like that.
Yep.
You can see how it pays for itself pretty quick.
Yeah. One big tip that I want to definitely talk about is, in order for you to get that every time, when you bring this back to start, make sure you check that dial every single time. When I was leaning over, I might have touched with my shirt. You might move it a little bit. You can waste material if you don't watch that. So there's a lot of companies out there that basically make you use like a TIG rod, which is great, but the problem is you're going to keep bending it. You might bump into it. This is very easily moved around, and you can make it so it's out of the way,
Okay.
like this.
Yeah.
You can do it however way you want it, and you can keep adjusting it and making sure that it's right every single time. Every one of our dies
you
comes
get
with
the
one of
tubing
these.
in here straight, you make sure this is set at 0. and then-
Absolutely. Yeah, put that little bit of tension on it, make sure it's set at 0. And if you ever bump it, make sure you stop, take your original that you had, and every time you get close, basically set it on top and just really take a good look at it.
Okay.
Because people do get scared. You might, man, I just wasted another one.
Uh-huh.
Well, you're not going to be able to bend it back. It's just not going to happen. So really take your time. After you get a few runs in it, you're going to get pretty confident. You'll be able to put together a lot of repeats very, very quickly. Just to show you guys, make it nice and easy, how quickly you can pull everything out and add a new die. We've got another set of dies over there. Pull your follower out, put it off to the side. We're going to remove the tracking pin, remove the main pin, and we're going to go from 1 inch to, so now we're at, actually, swap it around.
Now that one only has 3 holes in it.
Correct. So, like I said before,
That one's not making as tight.
this one isn't a 240 degree die. This is only a 120.
Okay.
So you could technically do up to about 117 because you're gonna have that spring back. But you know, we quick plop that guy in, put in your strap, put in your first pin, and then grab your follower, which has basically a pin on the bottom here that levels to the height.
So you adjust that for the height, or it just does it?
Out of the
It's
box,
set.
we give you that pin. You basically tap it in, adjust it to the height needed so you can see that it's,
So you just go like that till they
Yep.
lined up.
yeah, so now we're set up for 1.5 inch tubing.
Ah,
And
that's pretty easy.
we can load one right in. and get started. So what we would do is we would actually put our indicator on this one since we had used it for the other guy. But really, really easy switch out. So not every roll cage is using the same material from start to finish. A lot of roll cages are using, say, 1 3/4, 1 5/8. But for gussets, if you do want to put bends in some of your gussets, you want to use some smaller material to save some weight. Whether or not your sanctioning body lets that happen or not, you need to read your material and make sure that that's okay.
Yeah.
But in certain cases, for gussets, you can use some smaller material. You'll be able to switch over very quickly. So you can go on our website anywhere from 3/4 inch tubing all the way up to 2-inch tubing. And we have multiple different diameters, sizes, being 120 to 240.
And
so
you could bend aluminum?
Yeah, you can bend aluminum.
Copper?
Yeah, especially with aluminum, make sure you are very, very well lubricated, because aluminum is just going to be a softer material in general.
Okay.
You have to worry about it, having tooling marks on it. So if you ever drag another bend into this, it'll actually score the end. So in some cases, like I've got one of these at home where I was trying to do a compound bend and I actually had it touch the end here. It actually made a little score. I just came in, polished it up, and you were good to go. But with aluminum, since it's so soft, you have to watch that, because almost anything can score aluminum. Same thing with copper.
But basically, stainless, chromoly?
You can do stainless, you can do chromoly for obvious reasons. Both of them are going to be a lot more difficult, for arm strength wise. But you can purchase, a long tube, like what we have right here, our handle. You're going to be further out. Since this is only 1-inch mild steel, I basically had my hands here.
Yeah.
So you make sure you've got some real dry footing and everything. You'll be grabbing out here with chromoly or stainless. And in some cases with some of those ones, some guys will tell you to pack sand inside of them, because they tend to crack. You don't
inside the tubing?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, so that way you don't have any kinking. This one you're not going to have kinking in general.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen some of the hydraulic pipe benders?
Yeah.
You have to add packing inside. This is all mandrel, so you're not actually putting pressure in the center of it. You're drawing it over a die, so this won't let it actually kink, or won't let it have those splits. You won't actually have a press in. If you've ever seen one of those bends, you can see where the die the saddle pushed into it and actually crushed down the tubing a little bit. You don't see that.
You get those like a wrinkle almost.
Correct.
Yeah.
So if you would use a micrometer on this, on the actual straight section, and you'd go into the diameter on both of these sides, it would be very little change at all. So this is 1 inch. This is going to be just about 1 inch, depending on which way you go. With those pipe benders, you're going to see a substantial difference, up to 25 to 30%.
Yeah, because you get those ripples.
Yeah. If you ever build a roll cage.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So if you build a roll cage and somebody sees that in tech, no, they're not going to let it happen.
Yeah.
So you need to have a drawn over mandrel, like one of these.
Yeah, cool.
So if you guys ever want to build your own roll cage, if you've got a Jeep, you want to build a tubing bumper, or just basically want to do a hoop on the back of, say, like a Cobra, something along those lines to keep yourself safe, buy one of these guys, make some quick hoops.
Headers, go-kart.
Yeah. Headers, go-kart. Something we were talking about the other day is a project. We built a go-kart in the Eastwood garage. It's a possibility.
Oh, that sounds cool.
We got a big block sitting around.
We got a big block in the Corvette chassis over there.
So this thing's basically endless possibilities when it comes to tubing in general. We're very successful with our tube notcher, and this just complements that. And between the two of those and one of our saws, you can basically put together, a fully certified cage for your drag car, SCCA car. Like you said, go-kart if you want to go as low as possible.
All right.
Or even exhausting.
Well, cool. Well, thanks for the demonstration today.
Yep.
So if you want more information on the tubing bender, visit eastwood.com. There should be, if you're watching on YouTube or Facebook, we're going to have links. And if you have any more questions, even if you're watching it recorded, you can post them and we usually answer them that day or the day after. We try to get to them pretty quick.
Yep.
So, and don't forget, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, we're going live. We just decided to sneak this one in.
Yeah.
End of day yesterday, we're like, why don't we try to do a live? Why don't we go live tomorrow on the tubing bender? So we snuck an extra one in this week.
Yep, absolutely.
So, all right.
Yeah, don't forget all the other tubing things we have. The notcher, and we got a handful of other tools just for tubing themselves.
The tubing notcher, yeah,
we do have a kind of an economy version, and we do have the full pro version now. It is that same. Yeah, it's actually a 1 inch thick solid steel construction. So don't forget that. You can just use a angle grinder, but if you want to make your life a lot easier and repeatable notches, make sure you click and buy for that one.
Cool. Well, thanks a lot.
Yeah.
We'll see everybody next week.
Have a good one.